Sometimes we have to compare different kinds of data sets where the numbers are pretty different. And in order to get something that actually is meaningful between those, we sometimes use what's called the coefficient of variation. The coefficient of variation is the ratio between the standard deviation for that particular set and the mean for that set. And it can be either for a sample or for a population. So your coefficient of variation, and sometimes they abbreviate that as CV, is for a sample, that's going to be S over X bar. This is your standard deviation over the sample mean. For the population, the notation for a population coefficient of variation is the population standard deviation, which is a lowercase sigma, divided by the population mean, which is mu. Remember that population usually uses Greek letters for the statistics, and the sample uses English letters. So let's say we've got two samples of completely different kinds of things. In the first one, the mean is 1.2 and the standard deviation is 0.3. And then in the second set, the mean is 5.6 and the standard deviation is 1.2. So how are we going to go about comparing these kinds of numbers? CV for this one. Now they put the coefficient of variation in as a percentage. So you take this ratio and you multiply it by 100 to change it to a percent. So here we're going to have 0.3 over 1.2 is 0.25, so 25%. In this case, we've got 1.2 divided by 5.6, 0.21, which is 21%. So it turns out that the standard deviation and the mean here are actually comparable. They're not that far apart. Let's look at a problem in Statcrunch where they ask us to do this. So here's an example. To do this in Statcrunch, you do not actually have to look up the standard deviation and the mean. The coefficient of variation is one of the things we can actually look up under statistics. So I'm going to go to statistics. Now this particular problem, let me back up. This particular problem is talking about the waiting times in minutes of customers at a bank, where all the customers enter a single waiting line, and then another bank where all the customers wait in individual lines at 3 different teller windows are listed below. And they want us to find the coefficient of variation for each of the 2 sets of data. You know, sometimes you walk into somewhere and there will be different lines for each cash register or, you know, whatever. And then other times there's just one line, and as you go, as one of the registers is opened up, you go to that one. So does it make a difference in how long you have to wait? Well, let's find out. So we've got Bank A, Bank B. Bank A has a single line, Bank B has individual lines. So all we have to do here, stat, summary stats, columns. I'm going to highlight both of these. Puts them over there. And then I could get the standard deviation and the mean and do it in a calculator. But if you scroll down, notice it actually has an option for the coefficient of variation. So it turns out all we have to do is hit compute. After highlighting that, the coefficient of variation for Bank A is 6.61. The coefficient of variation for Bank is 25.03. Wow, so that is drastically different. For Bank B, there is about 4 times as much variation in how long somebody has to wait. Then, now this doesn't mean how long they have to wait. It doesn't mean they have to wait 4 times as long. But the difference in how long people wait, one person compared to another person, with the individual lines, is about 4 times as much variation in the amount of waiting time as there is in Bank A, where you just have everybody waiting about the same amount of time. Because that way, if one register is having a problem and they're going really slow, then the person who's waiting behind the person at that register isn't going to sit there and wait and wait and wait. They still get to go to the next one available. So it evens out the number of waiting times. Instead of this register running boom, 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 and this guy just sitting here, everybody waits the same amount of time. And they've done studies and found out that that's actually more satisfying to the customers. So this is how that works. Simple to get. Go ahead and put them in and have fun with it.